Hey everyone, so today's video is going to be a little bit different from what I normally share with you. I'm going to be analyzing a solve I did from the 2024 Polish Championship. This was, I think, the first 3x3 solve. I don't know if I got through to a second round or anything, but some people have been asking, if you're a movement coach, you say you don't analyze technique or like the technical stuff in people's sports. What do you actually look at? So I'm going to try and shed some insights on that now. All right, so first thing that I would like you to pay attention to, something that's important to me, is what happens when I put my hand down on this timer. So that was it. Let's just go back and see if we watch it in slow motion. Can you kind of see what's going on? So hands come down on the timer. And now look at both my thumbs and both my pinky fingers. So the ones that are sort of free, you're going to see there's like quite a lot of movement, bit of twitching going on in all four of those there, all the way till I get the hands off the timer. Why is that important? So let's just see it fast moment. Like, it's pretty much blink and you'll miss it. But then if you look at the start of the solve, like, everything looks kind of uncoordinated. I'm going to go back and we're going to watch that now in slow motion. So let's go super slow. That's that hand movement. We're going to watch it. You see the right thumb especially is going pretty nuts. The left pinky's got a little bit of motion. The right pinky's a little bit of motion. And the left thumb is kind of got a bit of a tremor. And now what happens when I get my hand up onto the cube, look how long it takes me to get my right hand onto that cube. And then just look at how clunky and awful that looks. Now, in my defense, if we go back, you're going to see I do get a little D-turn in there on the way, but my right hand, when it goes to reach on the cube, it's not even on the right layer. I've put my hand pretty much on the M slice when I should be on R, and because of that, like, look at all that stretching. That's kind of embarrassing. That is not ideal for what we want. And then eventually I get the cube under control, but there's lots of sort of overturning and corner cutting, that one especially. Everything's really not precise. And why it's important to me when I look at, is there tremors going on beforehand versus in the solve itself? If this was just happening in the solve itself, let me turn off the slow motion. If the solve itself was just lots of lockups and stuff, but I look really calm and collected, then I would posit that this is just something I'm really not familiar with. So, either I'm a kind of beginner cuber, haven't been doing it that long, or maybe even it's just I'm new to competition and there's something that's kind of stressing me out and something bothering me about the situation. But when it's happening, when I'm essentially at a rest state, so it takes long to go back in slow motion. So yeah, when I see it happening in like a rest state, when I'm not actually doing anything or I'm engaged in anything, that suggests to me that there's just too much going on in my mind at one point. This is kind of classically indicative of somebody who is trying to think several different things at one time. And when we come to lack of coordination, that's what it can also show. Like, you can be coordinated because you haven't practiced something enough, but you can also lack coordination because your body is trying to do too many different things at once, and it's trying to play conflicting ideas against each other. And that is what I would suggest is going on here. The other thing that we can kind of see, if we watch what happens when I get to the end of the solve, the other reason that I would kind of suggest this is maybe coming from stress, I kind of hold it together well, and then what you'll start to see as soon as I stop, I go into this like face rubbing, all of this stuff that is kind of like self-soothing behavior, that kind of like twitching, rubbing, looking around, like my brain's been under a stressful situation. It's devoted extra energy and resources to holding it together, and then as soon as I'm done, I just get that total collapse where my brain's like, okay, cool, let's just die down a little bit here. So this is a tricky one to talk through, because part of me wants to say, well, one of the important things knowing about cubing, I would say I need to practice more with a stack mat, because I'm really not doing a good job of picking this up here. But if I was watching this not knowing about cubing, I would say 100% for sure this guy needs to be doing something to improve like the brain's fuel supply. I would say we would look into like, what is your nutrition like before a competition? Are you doing any kind of like breathing drills or focusing drills? Those would be a really good way to kind of get rid of some of that underlying stress before we even look at like, you know, get better at planning an inspection and picking up from the stack mat. Now, the other thing we want to pay attention to when we see any coordination issues is what is happening with the other limbs and with the spine. So if it is just a nerves issue, so if I'm just super stressed out here and that's why things are going wrong, then I would expect to see that my posture can still remain pretty straight. When I'm nervous, your spine should stay pretty rigid, your arm should stay pretty straight. And I would say, looking at this, the big place where I see the most movement here is in my left arm. So if we pause that and we just look at the left arm, let's try this. So we got a little line down to the elbow and across. When you look at the top speed cubers, very often you'll see that the rest of their limbs don't move very much. You just see hand movement, tiny little bit of head movement. Let's just see with this left arm, I'm breaking the line, not so much at the shoulder, but at the elbow especially. There's a little bit going on at the shoulder, and if we actually look, it looks like, so from where I start off in the beginning, at some point, my whole spine seems to collapse towards the left side. So it's like as I lose energy, my body seems to be tilting around. Now, still at the moment, lots of movement at that wrist. Now, maybe I also could have drawn the line a bit more accurately, so I think this is a bit exaggerated. But yeah, here. So when is that? That's as we get to OLL, I've ended up with like a bit of a dip. So it's almost like as my brain's realized it doesn't need to have so much quick thinking, it's just completely tilted onto the left side. And for me, that's actually going to be a posture issue. And the best way to be dealing with that is through actually balance training. So where I was initially actually looking for what's going on with the left arm, I think there's maybe a little bit of work I could do on stability at the elbow there. But a bigger problem for me is definitely going to be the spine. So let's now go and look at what else the spine is doing to see if anything shows up. Okay, and having watched it back, the only real thing I can see that's going on, if we kind of look, around here at the chest, when I put my hands down on the timer, you see my spine kind of collapse a little bit. So hands down, chest is going down as I kind of exhale, and then I kind of pull it upright as my hands come back up. Now, that might not seem like a lot of a big deal, but again, to me, when I see that happening and you see that sort of collapse in the chest, that's very often to do with posture. And again, it just seems like my body is trying to work at a higher level than I've kind of got the capacity for right now. So for me, this would be like another vote for breathing drills and stuff like that. But actually, when it comes to posture, anytime that my spine is a little bit unstable like that, well, the spine is what's connecting your limbs to your head. And when the spine is unstable, imagine like, you know, if your arms were attached to something really wobbly, it's going to be really hard for them to be accurate. So doing some kind of spinal mobility training or doing some kind of posture and balance training might actually see me able to turn faster in the long run. Another thing that makes me, that sort of suggests to me that my spine is unstable is if you have a look at the position of my mouth right as we start the solve, and then once I kind of get the cross made, or once I do like a big head tilt and look around, you see my mouth, my jaw just sort of relaxes and opens. The kind of vacuum that you create when the tongue sits at the top of your mouth actually is a really good influencer on spinal stability, and something that you see very often when the jaw relaxes like that, the coordination of the spine tends to go down. So just seeing that the fact my kind of jaw is just sitting hanging open suggests to me that the core is not necessarily as stable as it could be, and that's going to affect my solve as well. Something that I could look into here would be things like mewing. If you've heard of this, it's usually because people say it's good for changing the symmetry in your face, but also has an effect on spinal stability. And then the last thing that I'll also point out is if we just look at what my head's doing in this solve, do it at regular speed, there's quite a lot of movement in my head compared to what I maybe necessarily need. Obviously, when you're doing a cube solve, sometimes you can see the cube better by moving your hands. Sometimes you can see it better by moving your head. But what I'm kind of seeing here is, see if we get some of those big ones. My head's not necessarily moving very efficiently. It moves, and then it kind of bounces back. So let's look at this one, this big tilt here. I get that big look up, down, and then back to center. I'm pretty sure that that wasn't me looking at 3 different spots. I'm pretty sure that my head lifted up, bounced down, and then I had to correct it to stabilize. If you see somebody who's very efficient with cube solving, the head tilts are super minor because a very tiny head tilt and a very tiny eye movement. Let's zoom in on the eyes and you'll probably see there is eye movement going on. If you look at the white of the right eye, you'll see very tiny, tiny little twitches. But we really don't need this amount of head movement going on. So that's going to be an efficiency thing. That is something that I probably just need to practice going through the solve and actually practice telling myself where I want to look based on what is going on. The reason I think that my head's moving this much is, as I said before, most likely I'm trying to think of 3 different things. So I say, hey, there's the red-green pair. Also, I've seen the red-blue pair, and now my brain is trying to look at both of them at the same time rather than making the decision of which one I'm going to track sooner. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this. I'm not sure what you're going to gain from this. If it's interesting, if you'd like me to do more of these, it'd probably be better if I critiqued with other people's solves. I think personally that would be a bit nicer. It's hard to do this on yourself when you already know the things you need to work on. But yeah, if you found this useful or interesting, leave a comment. If you'd like to collaborate and maybe I can critique some people's solves, it'll have to be over 18s for sure, but do let me know, and yeah, we see what we can figure out.